As usual, the top row, excluding the one from the far left, you will unlock for free, along with the first few skills going down the right side, which is your Sidestep, its Perfect Attack combo variant, Perfect Recovery, Sidestep Strike, and Arms Enthusiast. This is where I usually tell you not to put into any of the straight setup skills, but it is worth putting into some of the melee power-up ones for Fighter, but we'll work our way back to this in the end. Be sure to put 5 points in the melee power-up to unlock everything you need below it. Critical Strike increases your critical rate and damage by 15%. This is only usable as Fighter as the main class and should be maxed. Moving on, grab each focus and its respective modifiers for each weapon you use. Now due to limited skill points, it's usually best to pick either Valiant Stance or Wise Stance and all of their modifiers below them. They both raise damage done to the front and back of the enemies, but work in opposite ways. Valiant does more to the front, while Wise does more to the back. It's generally best to go with Valiant, but there are times where Wise Stance is preferred. Even so, especially as a beginner, one should stick with Valiant Stance, and then maybe later on buy an additional skill tree for Fighter to switch to Wise Stance depending on what type of content you want to run. Next, Adrenaline increases how long buffs Shifta and D-Band last per tick. This is pretty amazing for only 1 point, so you should probably take it. Tech Art's Perfect Attack bonus is a must as it increases the damage you do so long as you use different weapon skills back to back while also making sure to Perfect Attack them. Combo variant Perfect Attack PP save works just like the previously mentioned skill, but instead of increasing damage, it reduces the PP cost of weapon skills. It should be noted that you can use normal attacks between different skills to keep these bonuses going, but be sure to Perfect Attack them. And do note that Sidestep Strike will also end these bonuses too. Overload is an active skill that will drop you to 25% of your maximum health and give you a 20% damage increase. This works hand in hand with Deadline Slayer, Half-Line Slayer, Crazy Heart, and Crazy Beat. Deadline Slayer activates when you're at 25% or lower and gives you some straight melee power. It's generally suggested to only take 1 point into this as it's more situational and you can get more permanent bonuses elsewhere that don't require any conditions. Half-Line Slayer is like the previous but activates when below 50% health. It is suggested to only take 4 points into this just to be able to unlock the skills below it. The first of which is Crazy Heart, and this doubles your PP recovery when normal attacking while under a status ailment. The second would be Crazy Beat, and this raises your melee power by 200 when under a status ailment. Luckily, Overload is considered a status ailment. Speaking of Overload again, you can also take Overload Photon Charge right below it for only 1 point if you want, and that will fully recover your PP when Overload ends. Moving back over to the left, Photon Slayer is rather situational as it only gives you stat bonuses when your PP is under 50%. This might sound good, but you won't be activating this as much as you think, and there are other bonuses in the tree that will be of more use. Half-Line Boost is in the same boat as Photon Slayer, but it can be used for certain builds that focus on inflicting statuses. Chaser damage is always at least worth it for 1 point, as with just one, you will gain an extra 10% damage when hitting enemies with a status ailment on them. You could then further spec into it a little bit for 3 points in total to unlock its modifier below it, which adds more damage to it as well. Chaser Blind is another skill that revolves more around a status inflicting build and is usually not taken. Now, after all of that is put into, we can now work our way back up to the top and put into the melee power-ups as these will give more of a permanent status boost than relying on some certain conditions. Once the cap raises to 95, you'll most likely be maxing all 3 of them, so just put into whichever gives the most back per stat points invested. And that's about it for Fighter Skill Tree. Be sure to check out the description as I'll be leaving a general tree to work towards by 75. And then I'll also have a link to some builds you can work towards by the 95 cap. Take care.